On the court, all stars make assists look easy. Behind the back, no look or off the backboard, they're dropping dimes non-stop. That's how we feel about coverage and savings. Combine your home and auto with State Farm and start your own assist highlight reel. After all, even all-stars need an assist. Call agent Paul Dawning for help combining your home and auto and enjoy the savings. Dial 219-884-6947 or visit www.pauldawning.com. That's PAULDAWNING.com. Good afternoon, and welcome to the 800 Credit Score Man Show. I am your host, Kevin King. He is I, and I am him, the 800 Credit Score Man himself. And thank each and every one of you for coming in and listening to the 800 Credit Score Man Show. Right off the top of the show, I'm going to ask you to do something for me. Share this show. Share it with all your friends and family. Doesn't matter if you're listening on Stitcher, if you're listening to my app, please get the app. Go to your app store and look up the 800 Credit Score Man. You can put show in and it should show up. Get the app, or if you're listening to it on YouTube or Spreaker.com, but share this show, the 800 Credit Score Man Show. Thank you so very much. So right off the top of the show, I want to say today we're going to talk about how to get to 800. And I'm actually going to basically give my testimony and tell you guys, the people that do not know how I came to be the 800 Credit Score Man or where I came from with my credit itself. I'm going to tell you about that today, and then I'm going to give you some tips, some things to get started when it comes to your 800, trying to get to an 800 credit score. Before I get to all of that, I have to do some shout outs, and today I want to get a biggest shout out. My son, you know him, so you hear Kobe, Cameron, and Carter at the end of every show. So my son Cameron turned 7 today. It's a miracle that I'm even having this show today because it's his birthday and his day. So happy birthday, son. I love you so, so very much. We're going to kick it today. So, of course, he's going to have a party. Number 7, year of completion. He's having a party today. He's got a soccer game this afternoon. We're going to kick it at the train station restaurant this evening. So a full day of activities for Cameron's birthday. So happy birthday, son. I love you so very much. All right, so let me get into my story just a little bit. I'm going to start off with that today, and I'm going to give you these tips to help you get started. Also, I'm going to announce a challenge that I want to put out there as well. So stay tuned, and maybe you'll be able or want to take part of the challenge. So for you that don't have, people that don't have or haven't always had perfect credit, you don't have to have always been very, very good with your credit to have an 800 credit score. You can come from bad to good to excellent. You can absolutely do it. Some of us think it's impossible. We feel helpless and we feel hopeless, but hope is not lost, and I'm here to help. So contact me for your help at 800 creditscoreman@gmail.com. You can contact me there if you want and you need some help. I would do my very best to do so. And keep listening to the show. If you have a specific issue, go back through the titles of the show, read the descriptions. You will probably find that I have addressed your issue. Or, again, you can drop me an email and ask the question that you have. I take those emails all week. I get back to you. Might not be the same day. Sometimes within the same hour. You never know where I'm sitting at. So please drop those questions to me again at 800 creditscoreman@gmail.com. So back to hope is not being lost. So for those of you who haven't heard my credit story, let me share it with you so you can, kind of get an idea of how you can go from bad to good to excellent. So I had bad credit. So this was back in the day. I had bad credit. The lowest that I remember it was 585. So at one point in time, I had a 585. Right now, you know that if you've been listening to the 800 Credit Score Man Show, you know that the average score in America is around 673. So I had a 585, well below that 673. And so, why was my credit bad? Well, let me tell you. First of all, I ran and I hid from Sally Mae after I graduated college. Shout out to Indiana University for a good 5 years. So for 5 years, Sally Mae couldn't find me. I wasn't trying to be found. I wasn't hiding necessarily because I lived in the same place, in the same city. But I did not make any payments on my student loans for at least 5 years. So that destroyed my credit. Then I was sued by my apartment complex for being late on my rent just one time. Just one time I was late on my rent. So for those of you that think that it's not a big deal if I'm late just this one time, whether it's, on your rent or if it's on your credit card or your car payment or what have you, it will destroy your credit by being late. All right. So I was late on my rent, and I'll tell you this story. I was late on my rent this one time, and it was all my fault. I mean, it just totally slipped my mind. And actually, I was living in Indianapolis at the time. It was Circle City Classic Weekend. So those of you that have never been to Indianapolis for Circle City Classic Weekend, it's a big football weekend. HBCUs come and play. Of course, there's the Battle of the Bands. And so this was back when the Circle City Classic was always the first weekend in October. So, of course, usually your rent's due on the 1st. Maybe it's late after the 5th. So rent was late after the 5th for me at my apartment complex. And I was in such a hurry to get downtown to meet up with my friends that I drove right past the leasing office with that check in my pocket. I drove right past it and I forgot to drop it in the box. Now, my apartment complex didn't play. So on Monday, they had already hit me with late fees, attorney fees, and court papers. So this happened on like a Friday or this was Saturday. But by Monday, I had all of those things already, and they had already filed those court papers. So even though I wasn't evicted, even though I paid it, it ended up on my credit report. And I was never late on a credit card. I was never late on my car note, but that negatively affected my credit score. So you put those few things, just those few things. You got my student loan, and then you have this with the apartment complex. It ruined my credit at that particular point in time. So then let's flash forward. Let's flash forward to 5 or 6 years later. So my brother and I, shout out to Robert Lee King Jr. Hey brother, how you do? So shout out to him. So me and my brother, we started a business of buying and renovating duplexes so we can rent them out. So neither one of us had good credit, not enough credit to go and get a loan so we can buy the property. So we had to buy them cash. Now that was a struggle to try to buy something that cost so much in cash. But it impacted. What did it do since we had bad credit? It impacted the kind of home that we could buy, where we could buy a home, and even the conditions of the homes that we could actually afford and buy. But we did it. We bought 4 units. We bought them cash. We rehabbed them out of our own pockets, which took more time. Time is money, especially when you're dealing in real estate and you're waiting to get that rent and that basically that reimbursement for all the money you put out up front. So we could not, get a loan for those things. So we rehabbed all those properties, all those units out of our own pockets. Then after we had assets worth over $100,000, I was able to get a mortgage on one of those homes. So I pulled the equity out. And then, of course, when I got that mortgage, my score still wasn't that good. So we paid a very high interest rate on a home, higher than I would pay for a car, particularly at this point. So then I pulled out some equity, and then we did it again and again. So this started my credit score comeback. And speaking of credit score comeback, get on Facebook and join the group Credit Score Comeback. Get on there. We have great discussions. People ask great questions, and you have information not only from me, you have information from other people in the group as well. So get on Facebook and join that Credit Score Comeback group as well. So then after, this started my credit score comeback, the housing crisis hit. So when the housing crisis hit, then again, my credit score went down once again. So I lost one of the duplexes because I had an adjustable rate loan on one of the homes, and the mortgage became 5 times higher than the original payment. So I couldn't keep up with that. I lost that particular home. Now, of course, that goes on my credit because we didn't have it in like the LLC. It wasn't part of the LLC. It wasn't under that. It was under my personal name. So that's something too for you entrepreneurs, all you rehabbers out there, that you have to look out for. So again, that affected my credit. My credit score failed a whole lot after that. So then a few years later, my score was still bad, and I looked at my credit and I had over $16,000 in collections and judgments on my credit. Now, I hadn't been paying attention to it because the way I looked at it was I knew that, these things would fall off in, 7 years. I was in a year of transition myself, in some years of transition, moved from one house, moved from one state to another state, and the ability for someone to maybe quote unquote catch me so I can pay them back was close to nil. So I wasn't worried about that portion, so I was letting it go. So then I went back to, after I looked at my credit and I saw all these collections and judgments, I made that calculation and it was over $16,000. I went back to work to go ahead and try to work on my credit. So I started to dispute items. So I went to work disputing them and negotiating settlements on those collections and judgments as well. And this is how I know that this works and that it will work for you as well. So to clear all of those collections, over 16,000 and several collections, not just one or two, in total, I only paid $3,600. Yes, $3,600 to clear out that 16,000 plus debt that was sitting on my credit report. Basically, I saved myself around $13,000 by doing it the way I did. And of course, doing that made my credit score soar. So I was stuck in the 700s for a long time after that. But let me tell you before I get to that part. So after I did that, my score, of course, started to go up, but it also gave me the insight that I can ask for them to remove those items from my credit report as well. So not only did I have them paid and settled with them, which would have looked good if I was going to get a mortgage. It would look good that I didn't have any open collections, but it was actually better and much better for my score to have them removed from my credit report. Each one of those items were actually removed from my credit report, and they did not stay on there at all. Also, let me step back to the student loan portion. When I did start to pay for my student loans, all of those negative items from me not paying for years and years and years eventually fell off, or when I refinanced and combined them all, a consolidation with my student loan, then the rest of those items that were owed and a bunch of them separate little loans, they all fell off of my credit report. So that's something that you would want to look into as well if you had some trouble with your student loans. All right, so back to this. So I was stuck in the 700s for a long time. I don't know how long. I wasn't really tracking my credit that much. Like most people, I didn't worry about my credit until I was ready to go buy a car, or I was ready to, buy yet another home or something of that nature. That's when I start worrying or thinking about my credit report. So I was stuck in the 700s for a long time. And so then I decided to take action with my credit again. I took 2 dormant credit cards. So at this point in time, everybody was paid, never made a late payment on a car note or a mortgage or anything of that nature. Everybody was paid, but I was just stuck at 700. So all of you people that feel like you're not going anywhere, you have to take some actions to actually move your credit and move it along. So I took 2 dormant credit cards. That's cards that I've had for a long time. I hadn't used them. They had 0 balances. And the reason I didn't use them was probably because, like you would, I was afraid to go ahead and start using them, not be able to make that payment and hurt my credit score. So I wasn't using those. But I decided, because I read somewhere, that a company could decide to close your credit card if you didn't use it. So I went ahead and I used these 2 credit cards. So 1 month I used one